So much. And joining us now, New York Times Chief White House Correspondent Peter Baker, former RNC Chairman Michael Steele, and Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, Assistant Dean at the LBJ School of Public Affairs. Thanks to all of you. Victoria, first of all, let's talk about what's going on down in Texas. They did back off on, getting the Sunday voting after Sunday church sessions, but there are other things that they didn't back off on. So how does this play out? What do you think are the most difficult and restrictive rules?
Right, Andrea. So the bills that we're seeing right now are pretty much the same that we saw during the regular session, with the exception, as you noted, of reinstating the Sunday voting hours and also not allowing it to be as easy to overturn for judges to overturn election results.
And Michael Steele, Texas is certainly a bellwether of Republican voter restrictions. We saw a big change in terms of their Senate and, local elections in the last time around, but not, of course, the governor's race, what they were really caring about, and also the national race. So what is at stake for the National Republican Party in trying to keep Texas red?
Well, I think the first thing is at stake is that they are in alignment with whatever Trump is spouting in terms of the 2020 election, which we heard this past weekend at CPAC Part 2, just more vilification and lies. So you have Republicans, not just elected officials now, but party operations, meaning state party organs, county party organs, all aligning themselves. For a state like Texas, with this legislation having been defeated during the first round, now they have to bring it home. They have to continue to make the case that's consistent with the national branding around the 2020 election. I think that's what you saw this weekend from the reporting we just heard, where they didn't take any amendments. Yeah, we'll give you, Sunday, but the rest of it we're going to keep pretty much in line with what Republicans are saying about this election around the country, and that is nothing, because there is no proof of fraud. That's the irony in all of this, is that they've not presented one iota of evidence of the fraud that these bills, whether it's in Texas, Arizona, or anywhere else, are claiming to address. So the big lie continues. It has now become almost the ugly truth out of the GOP, and that's something that voters will have to contend with when they go to the polls starting this fall.
And, Peter, I think there's one area of Texas, I can't recall exactly the district, where there is a particular college with a large minority population, and every single time they have to go to court for those kids to be able to vote near their college or vote in their college rather than their home states. And it's been decided, by the courts over and over again. And every single cycle, they have to go back. I mean, Texas has been playing this game against minority voting. The president's supposed to be giving a major speech on voting rights in Philadelphia tomorrow at the Constitution Center. But a lot of Democrats are losing patience with him. Congressman Jim Clyburn is pleading with the White House to reform the filibuster rules just on constitutional issues like this one. And listen to Julian Castro, former presidential candidate and a new MSNBC contributor, today on Morning Joe.
A carve-out or a push on the talking filibuster, as the president has already said he supports. The problem is that we really haven't seen any activity. We haven't seen any push from the Oval Office on this issue. And you can see that, that the impatience is growing among Democrats.
So, Peter, what are we going to hear from the president, and why haven't we seen legislation to try to attack the 2013 Supreme Court rollback of the voting rights law?
Well, look, in the end, there is impatience, obviously, on the left with President Biden and the Democratic leadership. But the problem is, aren't the votes there? We've seen with Senator Manchin and others that they're not willing to go as far.
Peter, I think we've lost Peter Baker. Michael Steele, can you address that question of why the president, they've had the majority, Democrats have had the majority in the House since 2018. They haven't been able to do anything. They haven't tried to do anything on the 2013 Voting Rights Act, which is central to trying to trying to deal with this issue.
Well, it is. And Peter put his finger right on the salient point, is that the Democrats don't have the votes because at least two of their Democratic colleagues in the Senate aren't supporting this push by the broader Democratic electorate to do something. So what is that something that needs to be done? Well, okay, let's address what the Supreme Court unpacked out of the voting rights, the 65 Voting Rights Act. And that right now remains the biggest problem. They just don't have the votes.
And Peter, I think you're back. If you can, apologies for the difficulty today, but can you finish that thought?
Yeah, no, I think Michael's point is right, which is to say that the filibuster rule is obviously frustrating to people on the left because it means you have to get 60 votes to pass most things in the Senate. But at the moment, they don't have 51 votes. So getting rid of the filibuster isn't the thing that's going to necessarily put this over the top unless you have your own Democratic caucus fully united. And as Chairman Steele said, it's not right now. The Democrats are not fully on board in this. They're working with the narrowest of majorities, both in the House and the Senate. And it's particularly difficult in the Senate to get the consensus that they need in order to pass legislation to reverse the Supreme Court decision in the voting rights case or to reverse some of these state legislative actions. So, you know, it is frustrating for people on the left. It's also frustrating, I think, for President Biden because he doesn't really have a united caucus behind him. Even one or two votes in a 50-50 Senate is enough to derail the efforts that they would like to take.
Well, except that the criticism is that if they won't get that unless he puts more political energy into this himself. So we'll see what that speech is like tomorrow. Peter Baker, Michael Steele, Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, thank you all.